Although there are a handful of dissenters out there, most people acknowledge that Andy Griffith was a pretty easygoing guy. While playing Sheriff Andy Taylor, Griffith loved to have fun on the Mayberry set with his fellow cast members. So what in the world would cause him to completely lose it on set? Granted, there was a moment of anger when filming Season 2 that had caused Andy to put his fist through a wall. But even then, Andy never really lost it. He was quick to regain his sense of composure, and I'm quite certain he felt regret about that particular outburst. What I'm talking about is different. This was a moment that was shared with me by a long-time and trusted channel subscriber who had a relative on set when it happened. I say that because if you're looking for anywhere else on the internet to validate this story that I'm going to relate, well, you're not going to find it. I've looked myself and it isn't out there. Still, when I share this story, I think you'll understand why it is actually quite reasonable to believe that it's true. So here goes. First, let's get one thing out of the way. Andy Griffith and Andy Taylor are two different people. Yes, there are some similarities. I think that happens with any actor. Even the best let a little bit of themselves slip into their performances. And in many ways, Andy Griffith had a lot of the folksy, simple life charm of his television counterpart. That said, Andy was passionate about certain causes, and he made it no secret regarding where his political allegiances lie. And although his show shied away from controversial topics, Andy the actor could be engaged in a healthy and robust debate regarding many of the different issues of the time. And in the early 60s, Andy was a big advocate of equality for all people and an even bigger supporter of President John F. Kennedy. So on that fateful day in November of 1963, Andy just happened to be on set when he got news of the assassination of the man that he admired greatly. And it was the one time that cast members say they saw Griffith become completely unhinged. He just lost it. He was knocking over items on set, pounding on the filing cabinet that served as a prop in his courthouse. The crew knew that this was a moment that they just had to let play out. So they let Andy be as he did his best to work through the swirl of emotions that had erupted from within. According to this particular account, there was one cast member, however, who recognized the moment as something different, a moment to come to a friend's aid, to be there by his side while he tried to deal with what had just transpired. How could, in these modern times, something that horrible happen? Don Knotts didn't have any answers, but he rushed to Andy's side and placed his arm around his upset friend. The cast and crew decided that there would be no more work done that day. Instead, each one departed and dealt with the grief of the moment in their own unique way. Don stayed with Andy until it was clear that he was okay, and then he too took leave. I've made another video about why Don left the Andy Griffith Show after Season 5. It was a difficult decision for him, and the reason why he left might surprise you. If you haven't already watched it, I would encourage you to click on the link to that video that I will put in this video's description field. I think it's also important to note that there were other TV shows that were affected on that awful day. Some of them shut down completely, like the Andy Griffith Show, and others soldiered on. The one that immediately comes to mind is the Dick Van Dyke Show. The show is usually filmed before a studio audience, but on that day, in the middle of rehearsals, the cast heard about the president's assassination and were absolutely dumbfounded. They didn't know what to do. Should they go on? And in front of a studio audience, how could they? Ultimately, they decided that they would finish the episode with no studio audience, figuring that no one would be in the mood to laugh at such a time. So that's it. End of the day, I think Andy Griffith's outburst was completely understandable. We all deal with traumatic situations in different ways, and his one especially dark day on the Mayberry set just solidifies in my mind what a special man this actor was. So anyway, if you like this video, I'd love a thumbs up, and I would be honored if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.